The Ericksons buried 3 foster kids in 5 years, each death ruled accidental. I pretended to be a broken 12-year-old, and what I uncovered nearly killed me before I could speak a word. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. I was only 18 when Sarah Chen slid the manila folder across the table toward me. I remember the cheap coffee in the plastic cup, the buzzing fluorescent lights above, and the way her voice dropped like we were being recorded. "This stays between us," she said. "Not even Martinez knows you're going in." Inside that folder were the records of 3 dead kids, each one under the care of Patricia and Donald Erickson. All ruled accidents: one drowned in the pool, one fell from the attic stairs, one supposedly choked on a piece of bread. But the bruising patterns didn't match, the timelines were off, and worst of all, the Ericksons were requesting another placement. A 12-year-old girl. That would be me. They prepped me for weeks, changed my name to Leah, cut my hair into an uneven bob, gave me second-hand clothes and a trauma file thick enough to make me cry just reading it. According to the paperwork, I had no living relatives, barely spoke, and was moved around due to behavioral instability. Basically, I was the perfect throwaway. On the outside, the Ericksons looked like a freaking Pottery Barn ad. White picket fence, lemon tree in the yard, fresh cookies on the counter when I arrived. Patricia wore pearls to the kitchen. Donald smelled like aftershave and control. Bethany, their biological daughter, was away at college, or so they told me. The first night, Patricia tucked me in like some Disney stepmom. She kissed my forehead, said she was so glad to finally have a girl in the house again. My skin went cold. Again? I didn't sleep a second that night. The next morning, I followed the script. I sat at the breakfast table with my head low, hands folded like I'd been trained. Patricia poured orange juice like we were on a cereal commercial. Donald kissed her cheek and gave me this practice smile, teeth too white, eyes too blank. "You like school, Leah?" he asked, buttering toast with surgical precision. I flinched, like a good traumatized kid would. Didn't answer. "Ah, she's still shy," Patricia said, laughing softly. "It's okay, sweetheart. You don't have to talk until you're ready." They liked me silent. It made them feel safe. But I was watching everything. The hallway upstairs had a missing baseboard. I noticed it the second I passed it going to the bathroom. The crawl space was padlocked, even though there were no pets, and there were no pictures, none of any of the foster kids who'd ever lived here. Just framed family portraits of the 3 of them, all carefully staged, matching outfits, seasonal backdrops, fake joy. By day 3, I got a routine. I stayed in my room mostly. They didn't force interaction, which honestly made me more suspicious. Then came the moment that twisted something in my gut. Patricia brought in a white dress. "Try this on, honey. Bethany used to wear it when she was your age." I stared at it. It was clean but old. The lace at the cuffs was slightly frayed. She left it on my bed and closed the door gently behind her. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it for hours. That night, I looked up Bethany Erickson, and I found nothing. No Facebook, no LinkedIn, no tagged photos. Just one archived honor roll listing from 2 years ago, then silence, like she'd vanished. On day 4, Donald called me into the garage. He said he needed help organizing some donation boxes. I followed him, keeping my body small, like I'd been trained to. The garage was too clean, labeled bins, wall-mounted tools, not a single spider web. "Strong girl, huh?" he said, handing me a sealed plastic tub. It looked ordinary until I saw the sticker on the side. Faded, cracked, it read, "Smile file, Bethany." I froze. Donald noticed. "You okay, Leah?" I nodded too fast, set the tub down near the others. I made myself forget how heavy it felt. My heartbeat was so loud I thought it would echo. Later that night when they went upstairs to bed, I waited. 10 minutes, 20, then I slipped into the garage with socks on to avoid squeaking the tiles. I opened the tub. Inside were neatly stacked binders, each labeled by year. Some of them still had gold star stickers on the covers. It was Bethany's school life. Her assignments, her drawings, her behavioral reports. And then I found a loose photo, Bethany in that same white dress Patricia had left for me. She looked maybe 10. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Behind her, the same lemon tree I'd seen out the kitchen window. But there was a shadow in the corner of the frame, a tall figure, cropped at the shoulder, standing just close enough to be unsettling. I copied the photo into my KSBS-issued burner phone, uploaded it to a secure cloud, and that's when the light in the hallway flicked on. Footsteps. I slid the lid back on, shoved the bin into place, and darted toward the storage rack. I crouched behind it, barely breathing as Patricia walked in. She stood in the doorway, smiling. I thought I heard something. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. Patricia stood there for what felt like forever, just watching. Her nightgown swayed slightly from the breeze coming in through the side door she hadn't shut behind her. "You all right, honey?" she asked, the dark, sweet voice sweet like poison. I didn't answer. Codina. Finally, she turned off the light and went back inside. I counted 60 seconds, then I counted 60 more. When I finally slipped back into my room, the photo file was already encrypted and uploaded. That was standard protocol. One click and it went to Sarah Chen and Elijah Ross, my handler, a kill switch in case something went wrong. Only that night, nothing came through, and no confirmation ping, no double vibrate. That meant my burner had been jammed, or worse, blocked. I shut it off. The next morning, Donald was extra chipper. He made pancakes. Called me kiddo. Patricia packed my lung box with hand-cut strawberries in little heart shapes. I didn't eat a single one. When the school bus pulled up, and yes, they made me ride the yellow bus like a real middle schooler, Patricia grabbed my wrist at the door. Her grip was gentle, but firm. Her nails dug just enough. "You know, Leah," she said, eyes locked on mine, "curiosity is a sign of recovery, that's good. But too much curiosity," she smiled. "That's how little girls get hurt." I nodded like I understood, but inside everything was fire. She knew, or at least she felt something was off. That night, I made my first mistake. I tried to sneak a call to Elijah from the school counselor's landline. She picked up before he did. "Patricia." She was already there. "I think Leah's struggling again," Patricia said into the receiver. Her voice was soft, concerned, like she actually gave a damn. I stood frozen behind the cracked office door, barely breathing. "She tried to use the counselor's phone today. I think she's fixated on her past again, poor thing." She hung up before I could hear the response, but I didn't need to. She was covering her tracks, setting up the narrative, discrediting me before I could speak. Classic preemptive containment. I snuck back to class, my stomach in knots. That night, my burner was gone, replaced with a cheerful post-it note on my pillow. "Let's keep our heads in the present, sweetie. Sleep tight." Unc P. The symbol hit me hard. Voice. She was erasing mine, silencing the only connection I had to the outside. I didn't sleep. At 3:07 a.m., I slipped into the bathroom, lifted the floor vent cover, and retrieved the backup SIM card hidden in a tampon box labeled emergency stash. I cracked open my toothbrush customized by Elijah to hide the micro SIM, but I had no device left to use it in. I was sealed in. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I had to trigger contact from the outside, and that meant acting out. Foster kids with trauma got flagged when they disrupted class, so during third period, I knocked over a desk, screamed, bit the vice principal when he grabbed my arm. They sent me home early. And that's when I saw it, Bethany, or someone who looked like her, in the backseat of a black SUV, across the street. Pale, thin, blank stare, gone before I could blink. Was I hallucinating, or had she never actually left? I bolted toward the street, but the SUV had already pulled away. All I caught was the plate, partial niffity 3 not enough for a trace, but enough to remember. Back inside, Patricia didn't mention my outburst. Not once, just offered chamomile tea and put on a VHS tape of The Sound of Music. "You need a rest, honey. Everything's okay now." I felt like I was in a horror movie playing in reverse, everyone pretending nothing was wrong while the monster smiled in an apron. That night, I didn't act out. I watched, and I noticed something new. Patricia had a locked cabinet in her sewing room. I'd walked past it a dozen times before, but now it looked out of place, like it didn't belong to her. Cold, heavy, digital keypad. The next day, when Donald went to work and Patricia was distracted with her lemon bars for the church fair, I snuck in, tried the most obvious code first, Bethany's birth date. Nope, then I tried mine, my undercover birthday. The lock clicked. Inside a single red binder, labeled Progress, I flipped it open and almost threw up. Photos, notes, medical forms, but they weren't mine. They were for other kids, foster kids. Each entry had a name, a photo, a date of intake, then a final status. Some said rehomed, but 3 said resolved. Like a problem, a task, a case. I scanned each page, took photos with my hidden lapel cam, closed it all up just in time. Later, when I tried to upload the data, nothing. No connection. Even the school server was dead. Someone was scrubbing me from the inside. By the next morning, Elijah Ross still hadn't checked in. Normally, our system was tight. No contact for 72 hours, you triggered an extraction. But this was R96. Sarah Chin wasn't responding either. It was like my entire support network had gone dark. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, holding the encrypted camera pen in my lap, trying not to hyperventilate. The binder photos were still in the device, untouched, but what good were they if no one on the outside could see them? I needed a new plan, so I did something I wasn't supposed to. I talked. At lunch, I sat next to Kayla, the only kid in school who didn't look scared of her own shadow. She had foster experience too, bounced around the system like a pinball, sharp eyes, no filter. "You ever hear anything weird about the Ericksons?" I asked. Quiet. She squinted at me. "Why, just wondering." She leaned in, voice low. "My cousin was placed with them last year. Jacob, quiet kid, used to draw dragons all the time. Said Patricia locked him in the crawl space for 2 nights. Kes BS pulled him out after a week." I stared. "You're sure positive? He don't talk much now. Got real scared of oranges after that. Weird, huh? The lemon tree, acid citrus, a trigger." Kale looked at me closer. "Wait, you're not really 12, are you?" I froze. "Don't worry," she said, smirking. "I won't tell, just don't get caught. People disappear in that house." That night, I found a USB taped under my pillow. No note, just the drive. Inside, audios, a voice whispering she knows. The red binder, "Stop the girl." And in the background, a cough. I recognized Bethany. I replayed the audio 10 times. The whisper was distorted. A man's voice, raspy, urgent, like he was recording in a rush. But that cough in the background, that dry, rattling cough. Bethany had asthma. It was in her KSBS medical file. I remembered reading it during prep. If she was alive, someone was hiding her, using her. Maybe she tried to escape. Maybe she knew something. The red binder. That's what the whisper said. But I already had photos of it. What was I missing? I zoomed into one of the snapshots. Entry number 3. Isaac M. 11 years old. Status resolved. But under that line, scribbled faintly in pen, was a word echo. I hadn't seen it before, but now it jumped out. Was it a code, a room, a name? I dug through the smile file again quietly, methodically, and I found it. A drawing, childlike crayon on printer paper, the lemon tree, the house, and underneath it, the word echo written in a shaky hand. Below the roots of the tree, a trapdoor. I didn't sleep. I waited for 4 a.m. At exactly 4:30 am, Donald's heavy footsteps thundered toward the kitchen. He had a routine pee water, check the lock on the crawl space. When it was quiet again, I grabbed the gardening gloves from the shed, crept barefoot across the yard, and crouched beside the lemon tree, dug gently, shallow roots, dry soil, and then click a latch. Metal rusted hidden under a square tile of synthetic grass. My heart was in my throat, my hands shaking. I pulled it open and saw a staircase, concrete, damp, and one white sneaker, small like it had been waiting. The stairs creaked under my weight. 1, 2, 10. I stopped counting after that. It wasn't a crawl space, it was a bunker. The walls were lined with old insulation, damp with mildew. There was a cot in the corner, a camping toilet, a battery-powered lamp hanging from a nail, a shelf of canned food, protein bars, and there sitting against the far wall was Bethany, alive. She didn't look up right away, just rocked slightly, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes glassy. Her hair was shorter, chopped in uneven layers like someone had cut it with safety scissors. Bethany, I whispered as she flinched. It's okay, I'm here to help. She stared at me long and then her lips parted. You're not real. I am. They said no one would come. They said I was broken. My throat burned. You're not. She stood slowly, one foot dragging like it had been twisted wrong for too long. Don't touch the boxes, she said, pointing at the shelf. They have triggers, pressure ones. I think he said one day someone would come, but only if I was quiet. She looked away, and that's when I saw it. A second shelf, metal box, label Echo Protocol inactive. I didn't move, didn't breathe because I'd seen that word before. Echo. It wasn't a code, it was a name. Their operation. Whatever they were doing, Echo was the system. A protocol for cleansing records, resetting kids, starting over. Bethany walked toward the cot, lifted the thin mattress underneath a worn notebook, full of names, dozens, and next to it, taped inside the cover, a photo of her and 3 boys. None of them were alive anymore, but she was, and now I had proof. Bethany's hands trembled as she flipped through the notebook. They said if I kept quiet, they wouldn't hurt anyone else, she whispered. Each page listed a child name, date of placement, behavioral notes, final status. Some had smiley face stickers next to resolved, others were blank. She pointed to one. That's Elijah. She said. I froze. Elijah Ross, she nodded. He tried to help, he got too close. They moved him. KSBS code for reassignment, cover up or worse. Where did they move him to? She shrugged. I don't know. After he gave me the drive, they stopped letting me upstairs. Said my lungs were too weak for sunlight. I stared at her. The drive. Bethany reached under the cot again and pulled out a Ziploc bag, inside a small voice recorder. Digital, old but intact. She handed it to me. I don't know what's on it, but he said it mattered. I pocketed it carefully. That was level 2 evidence if it worked. Bethany, we have to go. She didn't move. They won't let you, they won't know. We have maybe 20 minutes. She just stared, then nodded. Barely. I helped her up the stairs, one step at a time. She winced with every movement, but we made it to the lemon tree and above ground. I thought we were safe, until the porch light flicked on Donald standing barefoot, in a bathrobe, holding a gun. His voice was flat. I told you, Patricia, he called out. Shouldn't have pulled this one sooner, Bethany whimpered. My fingers closed around the pocket with the voice recorder. It was all we had now, and he knew it. Step away from her, Donald said, taking one slow step forward. His eyes didn't blink, his voice didn't rise. Bethany whimpered behind me, her legs were shaking. Put the recorder on the ground, he said. He knew, somehow he knew. I shook my head. You don't want to do this, he smiled, tight and joyless. Girls like you always think you're the exception. Bethany clutched my shirt. Delaney, that was the first time she said my real name, and that was the mistake. Donald's face shifted, jaw tightened, his arm raised. That's when the second porch light snapped on from across the street. Kayla, on her porch, holding up her phone, a smile. Creep, she shouted. You're alive. Donald froze. I didn't wait. Grabbed Bethany's wrist and ran. We sprinted across the lawn. Donald didn't shoot. Couldn't, and Kayla was still filming. Sirens in the distance. Kayla had tripped the emergency hotline on the school-issued phone. Only 2 people had access. Which meant Elijah's alive, I breathed. Dragging Bethany toward the neighbor's hedge, we ducked behind it just as Donald slammed back into the house. Minutes later, 3 cop cars swarmed the street. Detective Marco Martinez was in the first one. He saw me. Saw Bethany, his face went slack. Jesus Christ, he whispered. I thought she was dead. I handed him the recorder. If this works, I said, you'll know everything. He looked at Bethany. We're gonna get you help. She didn't answer. She just looked at the lemon tree. Her voice barely audible. They made it look like love. They took us to the station. Separate rooms, blank walls, water bottles nobody touched. Bethany wrapped herself in a fleece blanket and didn't speak for an hour. I sat with Martinez and Sarah Chen, who looked like hell. She'd been pulled off grid for misuse of resources. Translation: Patricia had friends high up. Elijah's safe, Sarah finally said. Deep cover. They had to fake a burnout to keep him breathing. I nodded, trying not to cry. Then I pulled out the recorder. Play it. I said. Martinez plugged it into a laptop, clicked static, then Donald's voice. I don't care what they say. This girl's not viable. She's too curious. The file says Shanian, but she's already mapped the vents. Another voice. Patricia. Cold clean. Then resolve her. We'll log it as an accidental overdose. Same as Malik. They named him one of the dead boys. Then a third voice. Bethany. No, not again. I'll take her place. Silence. Donald, you want to be locked again, sweetheart. Patricia. This isn't love. Bethany. It's structure. My skin went cold. Sarah covered her mouth. Martinez stood up. That's enough. That's level 2, right? I asked. More than that, he said. That's a systemic hit. The next morning, the Ericksons were arrested, no bail, charged with child endangerment, manslaughter, obstruction, and illegal psychiatric confinement. Under federal law, Bethany was placed under full protection, so was I. But nothing about that felt like a win, because that night, alone in my safe house, I played the tape one more time and I heard something I missed before. A fourth voice. Low male. You keep running this project. You better pray no one hears it. And then static. The fourth voice didn't match any files I had. Not Donald, not Elijah, not anyone in Kespitas, just that one line. You keep running this project. You better pray no one hears it. And that word again, project. Echo wasn't just some messed up name they gave their binder system. It was an operation. Coordinated, hidden. That night, Martinez called. You're not gonna like this, he said. He was right. The system flagged the fourth voice as Judge Randall Thorne Family Court. The one who approved most of the Ericksons' placements. The one who'd overruled multiple reports of abuse. He's been sealing cases for years, Martinez said. Kids flagged for trauma funneled to stable families like the Ericksons, quiet ones unlikely to fight back. I was silent for a long time and no one noticed. I asked. They did. But every whistle got shut down, or reassigned. That's when it clicked. Bethany wasn't the only one they'd locked away. She was just the first who lived long enough to remember. I asked Martinez what would happen next. Full internal probe, federal oversight. You lit a fire, Foster. Delaney. I corrected him. My name's Delaney. He paused. Right, Delaney. But the part he didn't say was louder. I couldn't go back. My identity was burned. Bethany was moved again, this time to a psych trauma facility out of state. Voluntary safe. I got a new assignment. Low risk, desk only. But I couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop hearing that line. You better pray no one hears it. Because someone had me and I was still alive. Which meant I had a choice. Let the system bury it all again, or dig deeper. I weren't supposed to access the archive. Desk agents were locked out of active investigations, especially ones they'd bled for. But Elijah had trained me well, left me breadcrumbs I didn't even realize until I stared at my onboarding screen. The security hint for system override was what did they try to erase? I typed Bethany, the console unlocked. I had 3 minutes before the system would flag my session. Inside the restricted case files, I searched Echo Protocol. A folder opened hundreds of entries, not just in our state, 8 states, each with at least one anchor family. Each one like the Ericksons, clean, friendly, fatal. The files weren't stored in the regular database. They were buried in biometric logs accessed only through medical scans and emergency override by authorized personnel. Patricia's Kespias, it had been one of them. And so had Judge Thorne's. The biometric scans weren't just for security. They were used to log sessions, treatments, supposed resets, kids who forgot, kids who stopped fighting, kids who never came back. I downloaded a partial list of just names and resolve dates. Then I killed the connection. But the system didn't log me out. Instead, a message blinked. You found the door. But doors swing both ways. I yanked the Ethernet cable from the wall. The screen went dark. Next day, Sarah Chen was reassigned, no explanation. Martinez's line went dead, and that night I heard something outside my safe house. 3 knocks, then silence. I didn't open the door, not then, but I knew they knew I was digging, and they weren't done yet. The knocks didn't come back, but the silence that followed was worse. Sarah Chen vanished, no forwarding file, no retirement note, just gone. Elijah messaged me once off grid burner, no callback number. They know you accessed it. Stay low, don't trust anyone in region. I stared at that message for an hour, and then I made a decision. I wasn't going to run. I was going to burn it down. I contacted Bethany through her trauma facility's encrypted line. She was hesitant at first. Why now? She asked. Because we're the only ones left who remember. Silence. Then okay, but I want my voice on it. That was her only condition. So we made a plan. Bethany recorded a 9-minute testimony, names, dates, what Patricia called cleansing days, and most importantly, what Judge Thorne said when he visited the house 2 years ago. He told my parents they were the gold standard for compliance. She said that line with tears in her eyes. I compiled everything: the notebook scans, the red binder files, the basement photos, the call logs, the echo entries from the biometric archive, and Bethany's voice, the symbol they tried to take. I uploaded it to a hidden public drive tied to an anonymous leak site. Titled the file Echo Protocol Death by Compliance. Zip. Then I scheduled it. Timer 72 hours. Delivery list: all major media outlets, Dodge Child Welfare Unit, 6 watchdog groups, and 1 stubborn blogger who'd been writing about institutional rehoming patterns for 5 years without ever getting traction. All I had to do now was survive those 3 days. because once it dropped they couldn't silence us anymore, unless they found me first. The first 24 hours were quiet, too quiet, no knocks, no surveillance, no confirmation from any outlet. I barely slept. On day 2, the website hosting my scheduled upload went offline, not crashed, wiped, DNC redirect, 404 error, total blackout. But I'd planned for that. The leak auto-replicated to 17 mirror sites. Every time one went down, another spun up. By hour 39 it reached the blogger. He posted the story at 3:17 am Eastern Time. Exclusive. Hidden KSBS network labeled kids as resolved. Audio, photos, names leaked. By hour 41, Echo Protocol was trending worldwide. Hour 42, the Dodge issued a statement. We are reviewing the materials released today, and will investigate all claims thoroughly. Hour 44, Judge Thorne resigned. By hour 50 I received a message from a burner number I didn't recognize. No words, just a clip. Bethany's voice, a strong unshaying. They told me silence was safety, but silence is how they win. So here I am, I'm Bethany Nurksen. And I remember everything. I cried not because we won, because we survived. A week later, the Echo project was formally suspended. 8 states under federal review. Patricia and Donald both pled guilty to multiple counts of endangerment. They'll never see daylight again. Bethany and I still talk. We don't call each other survivors, we call each other anchors. Because in a system built to erase us, we held on, and now I work behind the scenes, training the next round of undercover agents. We don't use names, we use symbols. And mine is voice because they tried to bury mine. But I kept it alive. For every kid they silenced we speak now. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.